been a big day for Commonwealth Games organisers, with the first major arrival of overseas competitors and VIPs. First off the plane were more than 100 British athletes, and with them came Games chief Peter Heatley, who says David Johnson's sacking from the Auckland Games company is not a problem for the event. Kim Webby reports.
Before dawn, the first British competitors arrived at Auckland Airport. Commonwealth Games organisers were out in force to meet them. Before the Games begin, about 3,000 more athletes will arrive from 56 countries. 800 down on initial estimates, but still the most ever for a Commonwealth Games. Games boss Peter Heatley also arrived. The Scotsman's not too worried about the recent sacking of Auckland Games chairman David Johnson.
I think it was a great pity. We all felt very sad. But I can only repeat what I said earlier, that there's a very strong team, and I think teamwork has been the key to the success of the preparations to date.
A smattering of Canadian competitors arrived also. Their side faced the Ben Johnson steroid scandal in Seoul in 1988, but Games organisers are confident there will be no such trouble in Auckland.
The precautions are taken. I think the important thing, so far as the drug control is concerned, is that the control that we operate has brought the matter to the surface.
The first athletes are settling in tonight at the village that will grow and grow as the Games build-up gathers momentum. Kim Webby, One Network News.
And as the village starts to fill up, two of New Zealand's best-known athletes rounding off their Games build-ups. For John Walker, that meant taking on one of his main rivals on the track today. But for Simon Poleman, it was training in suburban Takapuna. Poleman, a hero at the Edinburgh Commonwealth Games 4 years ago, was a big disappointment at the Seoul Olympics. He says he was devastated by his failure in Korea.
It's only really the last couple of months, you might say, that I've really been excited about track and field again. And with the Games coming up, it's the best thing that's ever happened to me because, you know, I'm really excited about it.
Englishman Daley Thompson won't defend his decathlon title at Mount Smart, but Poleman says the main competition was always going to be Canadian Mike Smith.
It'll be out of myself and him for the for the gold medal. So the best person on the 2 days will win.
And if Poleman does strike gold, he's got a new way to celebrate. At Mount Smart, John Walker wouldn't have felt like turning flips. Walker in the 800 metres field at a pre-games meeting were blitzed by Peter Elliott, who kept Steve Cram out of the England squad for the 1500 metres. Elliott won in 1 minute 46.3 with Walker nearly 4 seconds back.
I just needed to know what kind of shape I am in after sort of being here just over a week. So I'm very pleased with today.
Like John Walker, New Zealand's badminton players have been testing their readiness for the Games. After narrowly losing last weekend's first tests against Holland, they faced off against the Dutch again today. Now, Kiwi Glenn Stewart met highly rated Pierre Pilapusi in one of the feature matches, the men's singles. There was no joy for Stewart. He was beaten 15-8, 17-14 by the Dutchman. 50 sharpshooters had their eyes on New Zealand's top shooting trophy today. 350 competitors from as far away as America, Britain and Australia have been at the range this week, and 50 of them made it to the finals for the Ballinger Belt. Outsider Sandy Marshall of Blenheim, who started at number 10 on the board, won with an outstanding round of 15 shots, missing the bullseye only once. The Ballinger Belt has been fought for since the late 1800s, and today the traditional victory ceremony went to Sandy Marshall.
Cheers for the champion! Hip hip! Hooray! Hip hip! Hooray! Hip hip! Hooray!
Oh yes, American Scott Davis was the hero of centre court at the Benson and Hedges Tennis Open. He's through to tomorrow's singles final, but as Richard Beck reports, he had to win more than a tennis match today.
Scott Davis had more competition than just his semi-final opponent Ramesh Krishnan. Outside the ASB Tennis Centre, protesters had their own message for Davis about his contacts with South Africa. Back on court, the din got to Davis. But just when Krishnan seemed set to win in straight sets, Davis was rejuvenated. With the second set his, he battled to hold his serve in the third. But having survived, Davis then broke Krishnan and earned a finals berth with his 5-7, 6-3, 6-4 victory. Richard Becht, 1 Network News.
And Andrei Chesnikov will meet Davis in the final after beating Amos Mansdorf in straight sets in the other semi. Another big battle's on in tomorrow's Peter Jackson New Zealand Grand Prix. The familiar names are up at the front of the grid, but as Kurt Sanders reports, nobody looks like running away with this one.
Last week, Paul Radisic's Toyota-powered Reynard ran away from everyone at Bay Park. But tomorrow he'll be sandwiched between a pair of 4 drivers, Craig Baird at 19 looking for his first win in Formula Pacific, and veteran Kenny Smith. Rain shortened today's second practice session. Radicic moved up to second on the grid for tomorrow with a time of 58.09 seconds. A third of a second ahead of Baird. But out on the pole, it's Kenny Smith with the best time today of 57.86 seconds. And that gives him a chance tomorrow to show the Ford Cosworth engine is still competitive with anybody. Kurt Sanders, 1 Network News.
The action's just as frantic in the first cricket test between the Aussies and Pakistan. Australia were all out for only 223 today. Now the Pakistanis are in big trouble. Shoaib Mohammed fell to Terry Alderman.
First down.
Alderman again, this time to Amir Malik.
And gone. Well, the batsman doesn't seem too keen about it.
And the latest score, Pakistan 72 for 8 at tea. Now mention the sport of croquet, and images of English country gardens and cucumber sandwiches spring to mind. But as Joe Malcolm found out, it's nothing like that when New Zealand takes on Australia.
Croquet's always been seen as a laid-back sort of game. Nothing happens too quickly, and even the ref looks relaxed. As a spectator sport, it's never really had a high profile, despite the fact that New Zealanders currently hold most of the major world titles. On the left, Joe Hogan is singles world champion. He says the reason the sport has a low profile is because croquet stereotypes still persist.
The old image it had, that it was for elderly only, and that it was for cucumber sandwiches only, and it was for Alice in Wonderland, hedgehogs and flamingos, which is quite rubbishy really, isn't it? Even though the game can tend to attract the eccentric side of one's nature.
He says in terms of stamina, croquet is incredibly tough. Even though there's a lot of waiting and watching, like chess, the players are constantly working out new tactics and having to study the opposition's moves. The New Zealand team started off well today in the doubles play, but there's still 5 more match days to decide a winner. The New Zealanders are quietly confident they'll win the McRobertson Shield again this time, but according to the players, contrary to what most people think, in croquet, fortunes can change in a matter of minutes. Joe Malcolm, 1 Network News.
Coming up, Louise has the weather.
And a giant waka takes to the water for its debut dip.